Our next presenter, we have James Malley with Paccurate, who will be here presenting his solution to our judges.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. We're thrilled. I can tell just by looking around that this is a group that enjoys audience participation. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many of you have received a box that looks like that? Look at all those. It's pretty much everybody. So besides us being kind of annoyed about this, this is actually a major problem. This is kind of an extreme example, though certainly not uncommon. But the fact is, the average parcel shipment has around 55% empty space, and up to 65% in some product categories like home goods. And so it's a really expensive problem, but we've kind of always looked at it as just the cost of doing business because getting orders out the door is important. But the impact on the environment is even more kind of devastating because that wasted space trickles up into other modes. Vehicles that cube out or get full before they hit a weight limit. So trucks, planes is even kind of worse environmentally speaking. And corrugate, the boxes that show up at your door, that's still the material that's really the greenest for us to move stuff around. But it's not free, environmentally speaking. For every 1 ton of corrugate produced, 3 tons of CO2 equivalent are released. Not to be a downer or anything, but it's not free. And so, looking around at, being at the show is incredible. So many innovative solutions that are aimed at making it more efficient to get packages out the door. Why hasn't this been fixed? Well, cartonization, and I'm going to hazard a guess that most people here probably have heard that word before, the process by which we determine what boxes or mailers or whatever are used for any given shipments, it's generally not great. It might be baked into your WMS. It might be from a legacy solutions provider, but historically has not been really sophisticated enough to optimize truly for cost and for space. And even if your cartonization is good enough, the way that we've figured out what boxes we should keep on the shelf next to the pack station has just been kind of a spreadsheet juggling exercise. Or you hire a consultant who then does the spreadsheet juggling for you. These have just really not cut it when it comes to really solving this problem. And so, those solutions, walking the 3 miles down to B Hall over there, might make you wonder, why hasn't there been a platform that has a level of sophistication that's focused on the packages themselves? Well, now there is. Paccurate is the packing intelligence platform, and we're going after this problem at the moment in 2 ways. So one, we have a tool called Pack Simulate, which allows you to very quickly determine, based on your order data, exactly what types of packaging and sizes of packaging you should keep in stock. It allows you to simulate changes to your SOP, adoption of on-demand packaging and other automation. And so that's one piece that gives kind of a planning and visibility that really hasn't been seen before in parcel fulfillment when it comes to packaging. And then Pack API gives shippers access to our spatial optimization engine. And this is really the execution piece that is far more sophisticated than some of the legacy solutions that have been out there. It's around 2,000 times faster and optimizes it for cost in a way that the previous solutions haven't. And so who cares? Well, it turns out parcel is hiding a lot of waste from a cost perspective. So what we've seen across our customer base, which really runs the gamut from mom and pop all the way up to Fortune 100 companies, is 6 to 15% reduction in carrier transportation costs, 14% reduced corrugate usage, and I'll give you an example of a specific customer in a second, 24% reduced filler costs, which this one's actually really important. If you are looking to become more green with your packaging, one of the lowest hanging fruit is filler material. Thankfully, when we open boxes now, we don't get an explosion of packing peanuts in our faces anymore. Just here, there's a lot of solutions for craft-based filler material, but it comes with a price tag. So you still want to minimize it as much as possible. And of course, the Scope 3 emissions reduction that we talked about previously. And so here's one success story, a fairly well-known brand. They deployed us in one of their facilities. Across 9 million shipments, we saved them $3.4 million. We also saved them 220 acres of corrugate, sorry, not cardboard for the corrugate purists out there. And so that 220 acres was enough to cover the roof of their fulfillment center 4 times over. So this is a huge sustainability win, but a huge cost savings win as well. And so we've kind of long believed that in order to really solve this problem in earnest, we needed to create an ecosystem of like-minded and fully integrated partners and vendors and packaging professionals. And so we really just started that in earnest over the last 6 months. A few weeks ago, we announced a collaboration with Georgia Pacific, where now our Pack Simulate users can click a button and instantly see what the impact would be of adopting one of their Earthcraft mailers on their cost KPIs, their environmental KPIs, all these things. And so one more thing. Very happy to make this Modex exclusive announcement. You may have seen PackSize press release yesterday. PackSize is probably the brand that's most well known in terms of on-demand packaging. Well, they just announced that Paccurate is their cartonization partner. So there's actually a lot of touch points here, but one being Pack Simulate users can now click a button, very quickly see what the impact will be on their costs for adopting a PackSize machine. But also PackSize users can now leverage our API to make their machines much more performant. So very excited to be working with another company who has a great booth actually in the other hall if you haven't seen it. And they're really kind of aligned with helping move this mission forward of taking waste out of the supply chain, one box at a time. So thank you. Questions?
Hey, James, great job. Can you speak to us a little bit more about how the users interact with your software?
Sure.
Is it specifically out on the floor? Is it the supervisors? Can
Sure.
you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. So our simulation tool, it's a beautiful interface, and they can upload historical order data and just run experiments, and in the background, it's using our engine to get to certain answers. So whether it's if I'm okay with 10 boxes, what should those box sizes be, or et cetera. So that tends to be either a continuous improvement or a data analysis team. Smaller companies, it might be like head of ops or something like that interacting with it. As far as our API and generating the packing instructions, that's usually presented at the pack station to the user. I would say we generate the image of the box and where things go in it. I would say maybe half of our customers actually use the image. If the pack is so complicated that somebody has to consult the image like an IKEA instructions or something, that means it's probably not a good pack. So, but that's generally where it shows up at the pack station.
Can you tell me what is the granularity?
James, Vikram here. So in the presentation you had a bullet where you said it's gonna, it reduces labor costs.
Yes.
Is that because you are already letting them know how to pack, or how else does it contribute?
Yeah, unsurprisingly, labor has been a big theme as far as the conversations we're having with customers and prospects. There's a couple places where we can speed things up. What we found is actually it's surprisingly common for repacks to take place. And that's something that a lot of companies have just taken as the cost of doing business. We tried to pack it, it didn't work, it didn't fit, or the dunnage required didn't fit, or whatever it is. So I got to go back, I got to get another box and do it all over again. Or some folks have processed over it by having somebody test out orders upstream or something first in real time. So definitely taking all of the mistakes out of the box selection mistakes out of the process is a huge labor savings component, for sure.
So if you need to set this up for us, other than the SKU profile and probably the size of the boxes we use, what else would you need to set this up for us?
Yeah, so we're heavily data driven. So there need to be good item dimensions, and so we're partnered with Cubiscan, who's a great company to work with, and they've really helped push the industry forward in terms of getting good SKU data out there. So that's kind of a baseline. Then there's what boxes do you have available, or if you're a pack size user or pack size curious, a range of box sizes that you want us to pick from. And then one of the things that makes us different is we're looking at really complex cost models at the same time. So negotiated rate tables incentivize all kinds of weird, wacky stuff. When to split, when to intentionally take a dimensional weight fee, or when to split things up into 3 boxes instead of 1. That's really what our algorithm is good at, and it can do it up to 10,000 times per second.
Can you give us an imaginary situation from start to finish of how your process works? I'm a very visual type
Sure.
of person, so explain from what object you're shipping to the end product.
Sure. So I could give you a real world example and omit the name, but there's a popular bicycle parts company, and they had a problem in their online shopping cart where they were quoting shipping too high and also quoting it too low and just generally getting hosed one way or the other. And so they realized that the simple kind of metric for quoting shipping and charging customers for shipping wasn't going to work anymore. And so they realized they could call Paccurate, our API, as part of that checkout process, give a real reasonable shipping rate, which lowered cart abandonment and also made sure that they kept their margins. Downstream, they needed to give the packers direction on which boxes to choose for any given shipment. And so their WMS, when the order wave drops in the warehouse, sends thousands of calls to our API. We send them all back with packing instructions, and those instructions get shown at the pack station. For them, they had screens there, so they just showed it right there. Some people print it out on a pack list. Does that help?
Yes, very good.
Great.
Also, one other, just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
this actually has happened, and I've seen it multiple times in our factory. We order just a random item, maybe a can B12 for the shop or something like that. And it comes packaged in a small box, inside of a medium box, inside of a large box, inside of a larger box. Are they doing that to buffer their shipping profit or something?
The Russian nesting doll approach
Yes,
to
yes.
packaging, yeah. There may have been several processes maybe involved that are just responsible for things being overboxed 7 times. Certainly we haven't seen that as necessary. So yeah, I actually don't know what to tell you on that one. I think more, sometimes packaging gets lost in all these processes that we're now able to improve because of all the solutions at Modex. Sometimes packaging gets lost when really this is what we're all trying to figure out, is getting these packages out the door. So I think it's just kind of a lesson in you noticing that and saying something and then being like, oh, I don't know. This must have been overboxed at the 3rd distributor that this ran into on the way here.
Hey, James, a quick follow-up question to that. So you mentioned the packing instructions. Do you also somehow have a way to capture whether those instructions were actually followed or not?
That is a great question. So we're actually looking at partnerships with companies that do machine learning. I might as well give them a shout out. Rabot is one of the ones here that's today. But we're prescriptive. So in terms of QA, we will typically work with a shipper to see what their process looks like, but I'm excited for some of the solutions coming out to do it automatically with AI.
Real quick, you're obviously primarily corrugate. Do you have any plans on introducing your software to work with poly?
To
Poly
polymailers?
bags.
Yeah, we do cartonize into, I don't know what the word would be for cartonization for bags, but we do have to deal with those containers. It's a little bit more complicated in many cases, fluid shapes, but there's huge savings opportunities, in particular on transportation when you mailers or poly bags. So, yeah.
And just real quick, can you just quickly give me a guess at what's the top number of SKUs that you guys are doing for any one of your customers? How many SKUs do they have?
Oh, how many SKUs? Definitely tens of thousands. I'm probably the wrong one to ask. 100,000 is probably the most. My sales guys are probably screaming in their heads right now. Cool. Thank you so much.